All right.
Shane, take us into hockey to do your thing.
So I'm going to go over the general news, and then we're going to go very in-depth with the Kyle Beach situation because I got a lot to say about that. But to get some of the other news out of the way, Cole Caulfield, this year's projected Calder Trophy winner, got sent down to the AHL this year. This doesn't surprise me because, I don't know, it's just kind of, I always had this gut feeling with him. It's just like, yeah, he's terrific talent, but he's got to adjust to the NHL game because he's really undersized. He's like 5'7", 160 pounds, and he's got to get used to playing with professional men. Because in college, yeah, you can. He won the Hobie Baker Award, which is pretty much the Heisman for ice hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, terrific goal scorer, but it's nothing similar to the NHL where you're facing, like, grown men, best in the world.
Haden, are you a professional man?
Jury's still out.
In Montreal, they've looked awful. Like, everyone knew that they were not going to be good after their Stanley Cup run because they lost Shea Weber. They don't have Price,
Obviously.
and they lost a lot of players in free agency.
For
so
sure.
Caulfield's had in 20 regular season games, he has 6 points, 4 of which are goals. This year, it's 1 assist in 10 games. But in the playoffs, 12 points in 20 games. You've seen flashes of it. I think it's best for his development that he got sent down. And this should be great because I think Montreal should rebuild, and that's going to be good for that. Morgan Riley of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the defenseman, got an 8-year, $60 million extension, AAV of 7.5. This is a really good team-friendly deal. Because like this season, a bunch of defensemen were getting paid $9 million, 9.5, and he is a really good defenseman, number 1 defenseman for the Leafs. Like, this is a really good deal, especially for their salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
He was a 5th overall pick in 2012. He's been on a staple on their blue line. Like, I feel like this guy's been in the league forever, but he's only 27 years old. He's like been playing this ever since like really young age. And 581 games. He has 59 goals, 251 assists, 310 points. Like, this is a great deal. Takes him through his prime. He's gonna be part of the Maple Leafs forever. Probably gonna go down as one of their greatest defensemen of all time. And hopefully that core can like make a playoff run at some point.
Right.
And then the big extension, Adam Fox, last year's Norris Trophy winner, best defenseman in the league. At 23 years old, he signed a 7-year, $66.5 million extension with an AAV of 9.5. So another one to the list of defensemen who got bang for their contract extension. As we stated before, was voted to be the best defenseman in the league. 47 points in 55 games played. What?
Do you not think he was the best defenseman in the league?
I thought Cale Makar should have got it,
All
but
right.
I'm not upset by it. It was just like, it was like a coin toss between the two. I think Cale Makar is definitely more physically gifted, but Adam Fox had a great season.
All right.
Just very elusive defenseman, smart decision making, great hands, can stick handle his way out of a phone booth. Good on the power play. He's going to put up a lot of.
I love that.
This imagery that you're providing
I really
is
love
really helping out.
That's like a pretty common hockey saying.
I think
Yeah.
that's hilarious.
He's got nice hands. Be a hand model. Anyways.
Where was I?
Adam Fox.
So, yeah, in 134 games, he has 98 points.
It's a lot of points.
Yeah, surprisingly few games played because he's had an interesting road to the NHL because he was a 3rd-round pick from the Calgary Flames, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Calgary was thinking, oh, we have an absolute steal. But this guy was like, I'm not going to sign a entry-level deal with you guys. I'm just going to stay in college and graduate from Harvard. And then Calgary was like,
man.
all right, well, might as well trade this guy. Some team's going to want him. So they traded him to Carolina in the huge Dougie Hamilton, Elias Lindholm trade. And then Carolina was like, yo, do you want to sign with us? And Adam Fox was like, I really don't want to sign with you guys either. I'm staying at Harvard. It was then Carolina was like, all right, well, who do you want to sign with? The New York Rangers. And they were like, hey, New York, this talented prospects will only sign with you. So if you want him sooner, give us some draft picks. So they gave him like a second. And then Adam Fox signs with the Rangers.
All right, then.
After he graduates. So here he is. Really paid off for the Rangers there.
Right.
And after speed running through all of that, we get to the main story of the week, which is the tragic, unfortunate tale of Kyle Beach. So, Kyle Beach was a 2008 first-round pick, 11th overall of the Chicago Blackhawks. In the 2010 Stanley Cup Final, he was called up as a black ace, healthy scratch, just to be with the team, just in case there was injuries, and he was there to play. During that time, the video coach forced and offered sexual favors and threatened him getting kicked off the team in exchange. So, in the investigation, there's been a lot of conflicting stories, but the story is the video coach sexually assaulted him, and the Brad Aldrich, the video coach who's being accused. Let me finish the story and then we can get into all the details. So they end up. So Kyle Beach, of course, reports it to the higher authorities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all of the members of the Blackhawk organization, the head coach, general manager, they get into a meeting and they're like, "What should we do about this?" And then allegedly the head coach was against doing anything because this team is in a deep playoff run. We can't address this because it'll be a distraction. So they prioritized the Stanley Cup over the sake of another player's well-being.
That's not okay.
So they win the cup. Amongst the Blackhawks didn't do an investigation whatsoever. So amongst knowing this person had potentially sexually assaulted some member of the team, and also he was reported to sexually assault an intern during the Stanley Cup celebration.
Mm.
And so the Blackhawks gave him the ultimatum. They pretty much let him off easy. They're like, hey, we are either going to investigate you or you could just leave. And so he left. His name is still on the cup, despite all of this going on too. Hopefully that will get changed. And he was even given a recommendation by Joe Quenneville to his next job in the University of Miami of Ohio.
Mm.
And then later he goes to federal prison for sexually assaulting a 16-year-old when he got a job coaching a high school team.
Well, I'm glad he's there.
So this guy is a registered sex offender, and even though all of this is hearsay, there's no solid proof, but it's looking really bad for the Blackhawks that this repeat sex offender has gotten away with this. And then I heard from the Staffing Graph podcast that Kyle Beach is one of the first 11th overall picks to have never played an NHL game in the past 50 years. So they directly screwed this guy's development because they did nothing to address it. And to make matters even worse, after he left the organization, Blackhawks teammates made fun of this guy for what happened to him. Teammates allegedly mocked him. They called him slurs, the slur that starts with an F, and have quoted saying he was missing his boyfriend, Brad. This is absolutely awful.
Mm-hmm.
And current players are still on that roster. Duncan Keith, who was recently traded away, is not making a comment. Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane. Jonathan Toews even went as far to say he still supports Stan Bowman and thinks he's a great person. Which is not the case, because he let this happen under his watch. They prioritized winning a Stanley Cup over protecting one of his fellow teammates. And ice hockey is a team about camaraderie, and you just left a man behind. Like, it was not worth winning a Stanley Cup to let that man suffer and ruining his entire career. That man could still be an NHL player. But because they screwed up him mentally, like, this guy, who knows what this guy could have done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was a first-round pick. He definitely had the talent, but because of what happened, he couldn't live up to his full potential. And the Blackhawks and the NHL have had ridiculous response to this. Stan Bowman shouldn't have had the chance to resign. He should have gotten fired. Joe Quenneville was still coaching an NHL game when all of this came out. He should have been fired immediately, should not have gotten the chance to resign. And Stan Bowman's apology was unacceptable. Like, not even an I'm sorry or taking accountability for anything. At least Joe Quenneville in his statement had some sort of apology and intention of reflection. And Stan Bowman also stepped down from the Olympic team. And unfortunately, the assistant general manager of the Olympic team, Bill Guerin, he is still currently under investigation for covering up sexual assault for the Pittsburgh Penguins of the Wilkes-Barre team, the AHL affiliate. And one of the candidates to replace Stan Bowman as general manager of the Chicago Blackhawks is Jim Rutherford, again, general manager of the Pittsburgh Penguins, who is also allegedly covering up sexual assault allegations within the Wilkes-Barre organization. There are so many things wrong in the NHL right now, up at the top. There's a lot of stuff they're hiding. And hopefully Kyle Beach will help players come forward and that we see a culture change, because this is ridiculous. We shouldn't have waited 10 years for this to happen. And then the NHLPA, apparently he was reported to the NHLPA, and they did nothing about it. They got lost in the pipeline or whatever. It is ridiculous.
I mean, they did not get lost in the pipeline.
What?
He reported this to the NHLPA, and then the PA, I don't know what happened. Nothing happened because of it.
Right.
The NHL failed this player at every step of the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's one of, the things that, as a society, men getting sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
Has been a thing that's kind of been a tough issue, especially in, those macho man type, you gotta be an alpha male type environments that sports usually are. And so, I mean, it kind of makes sense.
It's
that,
so
it kind of
brave.
just,
yeah.
Especially by his own teammates,
That was one of the worst things I ever saw about this. And as someone who's been around the hockey community, that does not surprise me whatsoever, unfortunately. Yeah. It's still there's still parts of hockey where it's very toxic.
Yeah.
So, and it's incredibly brave what he's done. Coming out about your sexual assault case is an extremely tough thing to do. His interview on TSN, extremely emotional, one of the saddest things I've seen. He's taken so much responsibility for what's happened. He feels so ashamed he felt like he didn't do enough to protect that 16-year-old boy who got sexually assaulted. And to have him have that guilt weigh on him for something that's completely not his fault is so heartbreaking to watch.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He apologized before anyone else in the NHL did. That is unacceptable. People should be fired. The Blackhawks should have gotten more than a $2 million fine. This entire situation. And then one of the Kevin Cheveldayoff, he's the current he was part of the organization for the Chicago Blackhawks. He's still the current general manager of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
I don't know how that can still be allowed for what he's done. This entire week has pissed me off.
Right.
It's gotten me so emotional. I'm so upset. So many emotions. So much needs to be done to improve this.
Absolutely. We have the groundwork laid here. Can we talk about the fallout of now that the information is out, however late it is? There is still some kind of fallout. You mentioned it throughout your covering of the topic. I just want to talk about the fallout of everyone here. You mentioned the coach, Joel Quenneville. he has, as you mentioned, resigned from the Panthers. GM of the Blackhawks, Bowman, also, as you mentioned, resigned. At the very end of that, I mentioned the Jets GM. There's no discipline action taken against him. Fill me in on this a little more. I'm not exactly sure what his role was in this whole thing, but the NHL has deemed that it wasn't bad enough, which is an awful way to say that.
He was still a part of the organization.
I just don't have a better way of explaining this.
Well, what was his role in the organization?
He was one of the executives. He was like something along the lines of like maybe assistant general manager. Or like director of hockey operations, like one of those executive roles. Executive player development. So he was allegedly in that meeting where they decided they weren't going to investigate Brad Aldrich. They were just going to continue on with the playoffs.
And I want to stress that this is still a developing story.
Yeah.
There's still information coming out. There's still people that are being handed punishments. There's still so much to uncover in this story. We have barely scratched the surface with this. The NHLPA, as of today, is going to vote on whether or not an outside investigation is needed. It's dumb that they even have to vote on this.
Yeah.
There should absolutely be an outside investigation, but it's something. It's something that's starting, and there's going to be more updates next week, and as time goes on. But as Shane said so eloquently, it is unacceptable. Can't.
And it's a shame that the current Blackhawks players who were there have not said any more about it. Even being defensive of previous management.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable.
I think something that summarizes the whole thing so just beautifully, but it's also awful, where you remember how we were talking before the show and how the Devils, for signing that player to a ridiculous extension, they got a $3 million fine for that.
Yeah.
But the Blackhawks got a $2 million fine.
Yeah. Because they cared more about money than they did a player's mental well-being.
Yeah. Like, sexual assault is less severe than giving a player too long of a contract.
Yeah. For paying a guy too much.
It's
a shame. It really is.
Yeah, especially for guys where there's a huge double standard in reporting sexual assault cases. Like, it's got to be so demasculated. It's brutal.
Just in general.
Because in toxic sports communities, like, they're going to give you so much more. Like, the fact that his teammate, I still can't get over, his teammates gave him a hard time about it. Like, when your brothers are supposed to have your back, they beat him to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So unbelievable.
It really is a sad story.
Hopefully there's more developments.
There absolutely should. There should be an investigation. I believe the NHL is doing one right now. Just an internal one. There's no... The NHLPA, like I mentioned, is trying to do an external one. Which is... You don't want any bias in something as serious as this.
Yeah.
Of course, Gary Bettman had to speak on this. He said very simply, the league's goal is to do what is necessary to continue to move forward. Which is not the greatest thing to say in that situation.
It's like no apology for what happened.
Yeah, there's no admission of fault. There's no, hey, we messed up. We will do everything we can to fix this. All he said was, we're gonna move on. Forget this ever happened. Absolutely not the right move. Hopefully, they figure this out.
We're definitely going to see more of this story come out throughout these coming weeks, and we'll report on.
Absolutely.
I know the show's about to end here, but before we wrap things up, if you're a victim of sexual assault, please don't be afraid to reach out. Like, as part of the triple threat group, we are here to help you. There's a wide community out there who are more than willing to support you. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not your fault. If this has happened to you, we encourage you to speak out if you feel comfortable, and we are here for you. And
thank you, Shane.
to Kyle Beach, we are so sorry if you hear this, we're so sorry this happened to you. We are here for you, and we are here to bring out change.